It was in that small room on the farm, as I was reaching for a tool, that he made his unusual request. This is a story of infidelity, but very different from the ones you're used to hearing. I've made a few adjustments, and I hope you'll listen carefully to every detail to understand how it all happened. You're on the Queen's Unveiled channel. Sound effect. This happened a long time ago, and the only people who know this story are me and my grandson. I've kept it under lock and key, but this time I've decided to open up because I know all my listeners will be captivated by this account. And I ask that before you say anything, you listen to this story very carefully. I remember it well. That hot, dry summer in a forgotten corner of Minas Gerais, near the town of Monte Azul, a small place hidden between mountains and valleys. It was the kind of place where the wind carried stories from one house to the next, but no one dared to speak them aloud. My name is Maria, a woman who has always taken pride in her appearance. At 47, I had kept myself well preserved. I've been married for 25 years to José, a simple, hardworking man of 59, the owner of a coffee plantation. Our marriage was stable, as they say, but José had grown old. He could no longer please me every day. Sometimes he treated me well, other times he didn't. And through it all, I had always been faithful to that man. Life on the farm is hard. Anyone who knows it understands the struggle of waking up at 4 in the morning and working steadily until 6 in the evening. The harvests, the cattle, the crops, everything needed constant attention. For a long time, I'd been feeling that something was missing, a void that not even the smell of freshly harvested coffee could fill. And it was in this setting, amidst that forced calm, that I never imagined what was about to happen. One day, I invited my grandson Felipe, a young man of 20, to spend his vacation with us. I hoped he would break the monotony of my life on the farm, and that he, in turn, could disconnect from the city. He was handsome, loved to work out, and also enjoyed country life with his simple and polite manner. And like any man his age, he was bursting with energy and strength. Up to that point, I felt nothing for him. Everything was fine, just the simple joy of having his presence on the farm, helping us out. Until I began to notice that the days passed more slowly after Felipe arrived. I would watch him, trying not to be too obvious, and see how he carried a vitality that contrasted so starkly with the quiet, almost silent life of Monte Azul. While Jose tended to the fields, Philippe helped where he could. But what caught my attention the most was the way he, without meaning to, filled the void that had settled inside me so long ago. He was fun, told jokes, and made me laugh in a way I hadn't laughed in years. One of those mornings, Felipe came into the kitchen to help me with the coffee. The house was silent, just the two of us. I was setting the table when I felt a different kind of warmth in the air. He came close, so close I could feel the energy of his youth. At first, it was just a casual touch on my hand as he reached for the pitcher, but our gazes lingered longer than necessary. Something in the atmosphere shifted, as if the air was charged with something invisible, yet palpable. In that moment, I began to realize what was happening inside me, something I tried to push away, telling myself it was all in my head. But the intrusive thoughts continued. It wasn't just a physical need, it was emotional. It was something Jose could no longer give me. And Felipe, so unaware of the storm he was creating inside me, continued to act naturally, with that carefree smile. It was as if the farm had taken on a new color, something I never imagined could happen amidst the bird song and the scent of coffee. I remember that day, late in the afternoon, after a special lunch I had prepared on a Friday. Jose had to pick up some cattle he'd bought from a nearby farm in his truck, and he said he'd be back quickly. In the meantime, he asked Felipe to help harvest some cassava. I decided to go along so I wouldn't be alone in that big house. Felipe wasn't very skilled at harvesting cassava. Jose had taught him very little. I had more experience, as I had been the one doing it for Jose for years. I took the opportunity to teach him the right way, and to my surprise, Philippe learned quickly and continued working for about an hour. While he harvested, I chatted with him, asking about his life, getting to know him better. It was then that Felipe started to open up, talking about his own loneliness. I can't explain what happened in that conversation. It was as if time had come full circle, and I found myself imagining a whirlwind of possibilities. Felipe looked me in the eyes, and for a second, it seemed he was struggling with the same doubts. But before we could think, we were closer than we ever should have been. There was a tension in the air, an unspoken thing that hung between us like a gathering storm. I knew it was wrong. I knew the weight of what we were on the verge of doing. I pulled away slowly, afraid that Jose would arrive at any moment. And to my great surprise, just a short time after that moment of tension, no more than 5 minutes later, Jose appeared, happy about his new bull, and pleased that Felipe had done the harvest. In the days that followed, I couldn't get it out of my head. That moment, that look, it consumed me. A new kind of desire had been born inside me, one I could no longer control. Notification sound. Every time Felipe appeared in the hallway, I would find myself caught in a tense atmosphere. I didn't know what to do anymore. I realized just how much I needed comfort. Jose wouldn't let me leave the farm, and that made me miserable. Until something unexpected happened. It was a Saturday night. I made a dinner to make sure both Philippe and Jose were well fed and satisfied. And at the table, Felipe looked at me and said, "Maria, this food is delicious. I can't believe the cassava I harvested with such care could taste so good," he said with great joy. Jose, smiling, replied, "Ah, Felipe, I'm not a big fan of cassava, but this dinner is very good indeed." I felt awkward because Felipe didn't really like that kind of teasing. "Jose, please, respect Felipe. He's very polite and, although he likes the countryside, he's not used to these farmhand jokes," I said in a firmer tone. Jose finished his dinner and went to bed early, around 8 o'clock, with a full stomach. Meanwhile, Philippe was in the living room watching a movie by himself. At that moment, I kept thinking about going to him, just to talk, but I was afraid something different might happen. But what was inside me was much stronger. The want, the desire to be near him consumed me more and more. I couldn't resist. I went and sat next to Felipe to talk before going to bed. Philippe looked at me again, in the same way he had that day we harvested the cassava. And I, flustered, kept looking back. With a gentle touch on my shoulders, he said, "I know it's risky, forbidden, but I need to be closer to you. You make me so happy." Silence hung in the air for about 30 seconds. Philippe and I just stood there, breathing deeply, our hearts still beating far too fast. It was as if time had stopped again, but this time the tension was powerful. We knew we were on the brink of something we could never take back, and in that moment, desire took hold of me. I kept thinking, telling myself, this can't happen, but the words wouldn't come out. Felipe, for his part, kept looking at me, smiling. It wasn't just desire, but also confusion, as if he too were fighting something inside himself. Reality had knocked harshly at our door, and now we had to deal with what was to come. I heard a noise from Jose's room and said to him, I, I'll go see what that noise was, trying to break the ice and distance myself from the moment. I walked to the door and found Jose snoring loudly. I needed satisfaction, and I had the brilliant idea of opening a room that had been locked for a long time. The house was large, and there we would be further away. If Jose woke up, he wouldn't go there. Given his age, he would probably just go outside, which would give Felipe time to get back to his own bed. When we arrived, I moved closer to Felipe, and the distance between us no longer existed. He wanted to be with me so badly, and that's when I saw his large tool, a full 24 centimeters, and I couldn't resist. There was no turning back now, and what was there to turn back to? To the way Jose treated me, however he pleased? I was so thirsty, I drank from that fountain all night long. And as if that weren't enough, Felipe kept asking to use the back door. I hesitated, afraid I wouldn't be able to handle it. But as we were in the moment, I thought about giving in to his request, just to make him happy. And so I did. After living through that intensity, we each went to our own room to rest. A strong feeling of guilt, mixed with satiety, made me reflect deeply on what I had done. I didn't sleep that night. I kept thinking, why? Why did I do that? Felipe woke up happy that day, wanting only more moments like that one, and I was lost in the house, afraid Jose would notice something different. The days passed, and I ended up doing it again, more than once. I couldn't resist the happiness I had found, right up until the day he had to leave. Felipe said goodbye to me, thanking me for every second we spent together. And I, grateful, still cherish that wonderful moment I lived. Meanwhile, Jose remained just the same. Subscribe to the channel and keep listening to more stories. Leave your comment. I love to read and reply. Kisses from the Queen.